Chapter 23, on social duties. Deal justly with those in your charge, whether public or personal. Be altogether protecting and solicitous for them, for God will call you to account in their regard, and every shepherd will be asked to account for his flock. By your personal charges, I mean your 7 organs, which are your tongue, ears, eyes, stomach, genitals, hand, and feet. These are your charges which God has given you, and a trust with which he has entrusted you, which you should restrain from sin and use in his obedience. For God the Exalted created them only that by means of them you might obey him. They are among the greatest of his favors, for which we should thank him by using them to obey him, and not in his disobedience. If you do not do this, you will be turning God's favor into ingratitude. Had God the Exalted not made these organs to be your servants, and made them to obey you by disposition, you would not have been able to use them to disobey him at all. When you intend to use any of them sinfully, it says in its own way, O servant of God, fear God. Do not force me to commit that which God has forbidden me. If you then commit a sin, it turns to God and says, I forbade him, O Lord, but he did not listen. I am innocent of what he did. You will one day stand before God, and these organs will testify to every good or evil in which you use them. On a day, which God says, which cannot be averted, brought on by God, you will then have neither refuge nor denial. Chapter 42, verse 47. And God also says, a day when wealth and children will be of no avail, and only those who come to God with a whole heart. Chapter 26, verse 89. As for your public charges, these are all people entrusted by God to your custody, such as your children and your wife, all of whom are part of your charge. It is your duty to guide them to the performance of that which God has made obligatory, and the avoidance of that which he forbade. Beware of allowing them to neglect an obligatory or commit a forbidden act. Summon them to that in which their salvation and happiness in the hereafter lies. Teach them courtesy, and do not plant in their hearts the love of the world and its cravings, for you would thus have done them harm. It has been said that the wife and children of a man shall clutch him before God and say, O Lord, this one did not teach us your rights upon us, therefore give us retaliation from him. You must treat them with justice and graciousness. Justice is to give them everything that God has made rightfully theirs in the way of expenditure, clothes, and living with them charitably. One of its obligations is to take the wronged one's rights from the unjust among them. In a hadith, it is said that a servant may be recorded as being a tyrant when he has power over his family alone, that is, when he treats them high-handedly. As for graciousness, this is to treat them gently, and not to be harsh in asking them for the rights assigned to you by God, and to treat them with nobility, and to laugh with them at times without falling into sin, in a manner that removes estrangement and repugnance, but maintains reverence and respect. You should forgive the wrongdoers among them, and those who offend you, absolve them inwardly, for what they may have embezzled of your wealth you will one day find on the side of good deeds of the balance. It is not fitting that they acquire punishment because of you, while you are rewarded because of them. The messenger of God, may blessings and peace be upon him, was once asked, how often should a servant be forgiven each day? And he replied, for 70 mistakes. This forgiveness touches upon your rights over them, but never those of God. Devote special protection and solicitude to the women of your household. Teach them the rules pertaining to menstruation, the obligations of ghusl, wudu, praying, fasting, the rights of their husbands, and other similar things. Responsibility may be extensive and involve many people, as is the case with rulers and scholars. Each shepherd will be questioned about his flock, and God the Exalted has said, God enjoins justice and goodness. Chapter 16, verse 90. And the prophet has said, may blessings and peace be upon him, O God, treat gently those who are given authority over any of my nation, and treat them gently, and treat harshly those who treat them harshly. And no ruler dies having cheated his subjects, but that God forbids the garden to him. Be loyal to your parents, for this is a most certain duty. Beware of severing your ties with them, which is one of the greatest sins. God the Exalted has said, "Your Lord has decreed that you worship none other than him, and treat your parents excellently. If one or both of them attain old age with you, say not uff to them, nor rebuke them, but speak gracious words to them, and out of mercy lower to them the wing of humility, and say, My Lord, have mercy on them as they did care for me when I was little." Chapter 17, verse 23 and 24. And God also says, "And give thanks to me and to your parents." Chapter 31, verse 14. Notice how he associates the exhortation to treat them well with the unification of him, and thanking them with thanking him. You must therefore seek to make them pleased with you, and obey them except in committing sinful things or omitting obligations. Prefer them to yourself and give their affairs priority over your own. Disloyalty includes withholding from them any good that you are able to bring them, as well as frowning and chiding. The prophet has said, may blessings and peace be upon him, the scent of the garden is perceived at 1,000 years traveling distance, but not by one who is disloyal to his parents, or the severer of kinship bonds, or the adulterous old man, or the one who lengthens his garments out of vanity, for pride is solely the attribute of God, the Lord of the worlds. And he has said, may blessings and peace be upon him, that God the Exalted says, the one upon whom mourning comes, and he has done what pleases his parents but displeases me, I am pleased with him. And the one upon whom mourning comes, and he has done what displeases his parents but pleases me, I am displeased with him. Parents should help their children to be loyal to them by not insisting on every one of their rights, especially in these days when loyalty is scarce, evil rife, and parents consider that the most loyal of their children is the one who does not injure them. The messenger of God, may blessings and peace be upon him, has said, may God have mercy on a parent who helps his child to be loyal to him. Respect your ties of kinship and start with the closest to you. Give generously of the good things you have and start with the nearest. God the Exalted has said, worship God, associate nothing with him. Behave with excellence towards parents, near kindred, orphans, the indigent, the neighbor who is of kin, and the neighbor who is not. Chapter 4, verse 36. God has, in many contexts, enjoined kind behavior toward kin in his precious book, and the messenger of God, may blessings and peace be upon him, has said, charity to kin is both charity and joining of kinship bonds, and let him who believes in God in the last day honor his neighbor. And Gabriel has enjoined me so often with regard to the neighbor that I thought he would allow him to inherit. Maintaining ties of kinship and kind behavior towards neighbors will not be complete unless one refrains from harming them, endures the harming they do, and does good to them according to the means at one's disposal. He has said, may blessings and peace be upon him, the maintainer of kinship ties is not him who rewards acts of goodness. Rather, is he the man who, when his kinship ties are severed, joins them again. And habituate yourself to kindness when people behave kindly toward you, and do not behave badly when people behave badly towards you. And success is by God.